And we are live. Welcome to our episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. Cue the intro. And we're back. So, welcome to all the viewers. Thank you for joining me today. So, let's get started. So, here are the main topics that we're going to discuss today. So, sports is back. Maybe. Now, according to the NCAA president, sports won't be returning until the campuses reopen. Now, according to the president Mark Emmert, now obviously they want to resume their sporting events, especially NCAA is known for their March Madness event, wherein they generate millions or even billions of revenue. But the concerns that they are looking at is in terms of the safety of not just the students or the spectators watching the games at live events, as well as the student athletes who are participating. So it's important that they ensure the safety of all parties involved is their priority. Now, obviously, in order for the college sports to resume, they have to schools has to open again and have students come back, but that's becoming more unlikely as the passing time. Now, in terms of professional sports, that's another matter altogether. Now, the main issue here that they're talking about is not just the safety, but ensuring providing proper testing for all parties involved. Now, take a look at other major sports like NBA, the National Basketball Association, as an example of how to go about. And right now, they're still shut down. They're looking at different ways to resume their sporting events. We'll see what happens there. Now, on a related topic, according to the California Governor Newsom, they're saying that sporting events should come back, but without spectators. Now, this could happen as early as June or first week of June. Now, this is on the condition that they have the ability to hold or reduce the rate of the transmission of the virus and that no additional stress is provided to the existing hospital facilities. And this is also reiterated by another governor, Governor Cuomo from New York, that they are asking major sports to resume or to open, but without fans. Now, on the other hand, the leagues can resume their sports, like as I mentioned, the basketball is already shut down, and they're trying or looking for ways to resume their season. But the main problem here is not just the spectators. There's no more people in the arena, but how do you protect the interest of the players themselves? So testing is one, but how do you manage all the logistics? Now there are 30 teams in the NBA, so do you hold them into one place, one arena? And how's that going to be? Now take note, these are multi-millionaire players. So you have to consider their situation, that discipline, that can they go home to their family still, or they have to be quarantined or stuck in a particular place to hold the event. Now, according to one of the players, a professional player at that, Troy Deeney is a football player who plays for the Watford team, says he will not play or return to training. And this is, not talking about resuming professional play. Well, the player is being saying that he's risk averse in terms of contracting the same disease. Not only that you contract the disease yourselves, but you may contract or spread it with your family members once you go home. Most especially for Black, Asian, and minority ethnic, has a higher likelihood or twice as likely to die from the virus as compared to white people in England and Wales. And this is according to the national statistics. So their concerns are warranted. So question is, how can sporting events guarantee the safety of their players? Another league that hasn't started and They are already encountering problems like the Major League Baseball. They're debating right now in terms of the profit sharing, amongst other things that they have to consider. And later on, the football season, or American football, the National Football League, will be resuming in a few months' time. And they're looking at the other leagues, how they resume their business will be observed. So question is, do players play so that they can get paid? And then at the end of the day, business has to resume because they are being paid millions or billions of dollars to hold these events. Now, obviously, people like us, the viewer, the spectators, miss watching sporting events again. So, hopefully, they'll be able to return as soon as possible. But considering all the technicalities that they have to consider, it's a daunting task. Now, NBA has been the leading forefront in terms of how to resume or to conduct themselves because they were the first league to halt professional play, and now they're considering a different avenues in terms of how to resume their basketball season, if any at all. Now, speaking of airlines, uh, the airline industry has been having this difficult, turbulent time during the crisis. And right now, one of their concerns is the airfares that will be affected once uh, flights resume. Now, one thing that passengers would notice that because of low demand, high supply, airfares could fall once the resumption of flights occur. But maintaining or reducing the cost is a problem now. And not only that, they have to contend with concerns that airlines or being provided strict guidelines in terms of maintaining social distance amongst passengers, that the middle seat should be maintained empty. And that could significantly hamper their revenue, and this could significantly in turn raise the cost of airfares, which we don't want. But one thing is certain, that all passengers should wear face masks to protect themselves as well as other passengers. Now, how likely are you to board a plane again, knowing that you're in an enclosed place that if one is infected, there's a high likelihood that others will be affected. And not only that, the airline industry is dealing with the uh, refund issue in terms of passengers canceling their flights due to the pandemic, and companies having to deal with this, and some are already going under under the business. So question is, what do they do? Some are prolonging the process, meaning it could take as much as 6 months before you could get your refund. Now, according to a survey done, according to BBC, it was mentioned that they surveyed 122 airlines, and only four, let me repeat, only four was able to comply with the new conditions provided, and the form that I mentioned would only break even. So what I foresee in the near future, that many businesses either find a way how to survive this crucial crisis, or they would go under. Now, another way is maybe several companies or airlines would merge into one company. And according to the estimates here, the airline industry would recover as early as 2021. That's a year from now. So who remains in the industry, we have to wait and see. And I mentioned earlier regarding leaving the empty seat open is a very hot issue. Many airlines will resist this implementation. Even the aviation industry opposes such implementation. Because if that were to occur, and according to the IATA, the era of affordable travel will come to an end. So meaning for people like us who enjoy traveling around the world or going to different places will be limited. But would that be in the long term or just in the short term? We have to wait and see. Now, there's also saying that the risk of catching the virus on a plane is very low. But the keyword is low percentage, meaning there's still a chance of contracting the disease. It used to be that when you board the plane, that your only concern is if a plane would crash, which is very minimal, safer than driving a car. But now you're also asking passengers to stake their lives that they might get the virus as well as contract the virus and infect other people, which is a different issue altogether. So what happens here, we have to wait and see how comfortable people are before they go back flying again. Now, regarding the middle seat, as I mentioned, now, not many companies are adopting the said policy. An example here is Thailand. They're only providing no food, no water in during flights, so to maintain any contamination or cross-contamination at that. While the countries of Malaysia and Indonesia are only having planes at half capacity. So they are going to implement the social distancing. Now, can they sustain that in the long run? We don't know, right? And I think Malaysia's already have a bailout from their government. Now, I'm not sure about Indonesia. I think they're also being uh, bailed out by their government. Now, as for the U.S. country, United States and Europe, they're not implementing the middle seat, empty middle seat, because it doesn't make sense, right? It's either the plane is safe or not. So it's up to the airline industry, the airport themselves, the facility itself, and people who are involved in the airline industry to ensure that communicate to the passengers that the that boarding a plane is safe. And actually, in China, they are going as normal as usual, meaning aircraft is at full capacity when they're traveling. So you don't know if you might be contracting it or you might be spreading it already. So unless they can guarantee with certainty that the virus will not be spreading within the plane, it's another issue altogether. So what do you think? Leave your comments down below. Next, we have, speaking of restaurants, so it's not just the airline industry who's being significantly affected, but the restaurants as well. It's not just any restaurants, but the small businesses or restaurants themselves. Having shut down for this long of a period, how long can they sustain it? You know, they would go under uh, anytime soon, and they have to lay off people. On the other hand, these are opportunities for other businesses and opportunities for big chains restaurants like fast food brands like Domino's Pizza, Chipotle, and Wendy's, and many other fast food brands, and taking advantage of in terms of increasing their market share as well as their footprint in the market. Now, taking advantage is not necessarily a negative concept. This has been happening all the time. Obviously, when small businesses are shut down, there will be vacant spaces, cheaper prices, and flexible rents, so that these businesses or fast food chains can take advantage. Now, for some of them, they're already planning to expand their market, and this has only accelerated their process with the ongoing crisis. Now, obviously, why fast food chains are benefiting from this compared to independent restaurants. Now, obviously, the one key thing when you talk of fast food brands or fast food chains is the convenience that they provide to customer as well as accessibility. So there's takeout, delivery, even drive-thrus. So this entices everyone, even myself, to order food from fast food chains like such. And it's not just the restaurants who are benefiting from this crisis. Big stores like Walmart as surging their sales at stores as well as online with higher demand that exceeds by as much as 74%. And they have already set their online sales record from food sales and as well as supplies. The share has already increased by by 100%, sorry, from 3.4% all the way to 7%. So the business online business has significantly grew by as much as 74% in the first quarter alone. So I think that trend is going to continue in the succeeding quarters, whether through store pickup or delivery. Similarly, another company, Target, is also surging in terms of online sales. Uh, this quarter alone, their sales have surged up to almost 150%. 150%, right? And they're also saying that they're setting aside as much as 500 million to implement safety standards not just at their stores, but also providing higher wages through their employees who are the frontliners of many companies. Now, obviously, they have benefited since many of the customers are have stockpiled during the start of the pandemic, and as the lockdown extended, demand rose for other non-staple items, discretionary goods such as beauty products, home goods, and clothing and others. Now, it's not just Target and Walmart benefiting from this, and Lowe's, who is a home improvement chain similar to Home Depot here, and as well as Wilcon Depot, where people spend items for do-it-yourself projects because you're stuck at home. So you're looking for ways to buy the time or lull the time, so to speak. Their sales have surged as much as 80% in this quarter alone. Now, obviously, increase of sale is good for a business, right? But this will always be offset by additional costs that they incur in terms of higher expenses, you know, hiring employees, shouldering more costs to ensure the safety of the process, their warehouses and such. Now, no one's complaining here. They shouldn't be, right? Because at the end of the day, you just need to survive this critical period, and once it has passed, you've already gained a new set of customers in the marketplace, right? And for those businesses who did not adapt to the changes that is occurring right now, are suffering tremendously. And one such company is Nordstrom Company. Nordstrom is a U.S. luxury department store that was founded way back in the early 19th century, 1901. So they've been in the business for more than 100 years, but with their footprint in the United States, they had to shut down 16 of their 116 stores nationwide. Uh, Many closures that will take place this year are such states as California, Florida, New Jersey, and Texas, among other states. Now, according to the CEO, Eric Nordstrom, more than ever, we need to work with flexibility and speed. Now, obviously, with this crisis going on, if you cannot survive this crucial period, by the end of the year, you might be filing for bankruptcy. So many big chain stores like Nordstrom, either they close their stores or reduce their stores to a significant number amount, maybe even half of that, so that you can maintain the key core markets that you are maintaining. Another company that is filing for bankruptcy, which is happening right now, is JCPenney. JCPenney is an American department store and has almost 900 stores nationwide and as well as in Puerto Rico. They've already filed for bankruptcy early this week, and they are in talks to look for funds during this process. So they're trying to raise as much as 1 billion, and as of right now, they have only raised up to 300 to 500. So there's still a long ways to go before officially going through the process. Now, continuing with this difficult thing, if you notice the trend that the topics that we've been discussing here, for those businesses who have shifted their customers' preferences in terms of online purchases, they have survived and they will continue to do well. But for those businesses who have not shifted and remain the way they are on how they conduct business, it's going to take a lot of time and you need a lot of resources to do that. Anyway, let's go to the next segment. So for local news, where is it? Where is it? There you go. So for local news, according to Business World Online, office space demand is going to be slow, not just in the short term, but also in the medium term, due to the disruptions, due to the disruptions from business activities. This was mentioned in the investment report according to Cushman and Wakefield. Now, many businesses have already shifted, as I mentioned earlier, to e-commerce platform. So for those businesses who has already established e-commerce platform, have tremendously benefited this time. And e-commerce platform like, let's say, Amazon, Zalora, Shopee, and such are benefiting from the extra boost of sales. Now, problem is if you're a business that is reliant on the retail stores, meaning a brick and mortar setup, you'll have a difficult time, generating revenue. Now, one good thing that came out of this, especially here in our country, many mall operators such as the SM Group, Ayala Malls, Mega World, and Robinson's Land have waived the rental fees for all tenants in its shopping malls. But the question is, how long can they sustain that? Obviously, they are a business. Eventually, if businesses cannot resume, they have to completely shut down and let go of employees, which we don't want that as a nation, which would significantly affect our economy, right? On the other hand, as I mentioned, due to the boost in e-commerce sales, there's have been a robust demand for logistics facilities as well as warehouses for storing additional items. Now, one problem that they're encountering is the supply chain disruption in terms of from the time you order to the time you receive your order. So, how long does it take? So, some typically on a normal day that takes a day or two, right? But now that could be delayed as much as a week to even a month, depending the difficulty of sourcing the product. On the other hand, uh, the article is saying that they are looking optimistic in terms of the demand for the residential sector, meaning once the crisis passes, people would continue buying properties again. Now, maybe I'm pessimistic about this because people would be apprehensive investing their money right away because they're trying to sustain or survive this difficult time. And industries that are significantly hampered is the hotel industry, and they will continue to see pain in terms of travel demand is still low, at an all-time low, and they are intertwined with the airline industry. So what they do in the meantime, that's a big guess. So we'll see what will happen. Continuing, speaking of test, Aboitiz, the conglomerate group, will regularly test its employees until early next year. So the Aboitiz group of companies will test its frontliners every 2 weeks until 2021. So employees before returning to work will be asked to do an online risk assessment in terms of risk exposure and medical condition. Now the conglomerate group has interest in power, banking, finance, food, infrastructure, as well as land. So according to the CEO, Sabin Aboitis, the new normal is to adapt to with resilience. And I think that's a common theme throughout this discussion. If you notice, being innovative is the main key here to sustain your business. Otherwise, you will be left behind or you will suffer tremendously. Anyway, so they also mentioned that the return of employees will be gradual until the end of the year. So maybe right now, once the lockdown eases or opens up, critical employees will only be required to report to office that are essential for the day-to-day operations, while the rest will be maintained in their work from home. Obviously, safety measures will be implemented, like mentioned before, such as thermal scanning, foot baths, and face masks. Now, hopefully, once they implement this, will it be enough? Again, it goes back to our leadership, the government, in terms of ensuring that is it safe to go back outside? Obviously, business has to resume, otherwise the economy will be hampered. And the company, as mentioned, Avoidance Group, have implemented proximity cards, removing contact sensors altogether. Now, speaking of construction, SMC is to resume the construction work on Skyway extension. So the 10 billion project extension, which both on both ends from the Skyway Toll Plaza main line all the way up to Susana Heights. So this is a 4-kilometer viaduct that was started last June, and later on there will be a 1-month period where it will cross about 700 meters of lane 3 of the Skyway at grade section starting northbound from Old Alabang Entry Plaza. So if you're living in that area, you need to prepare. It's going to cause heavy traffic later on. And finally, speaking of digital services, I just saw this reported last night locally that the government is proposing taxing digital services such as Netflix and Spotify. This caught my attention because how are they going to tax those online services? But What's interesting, they were enticed of the possible revenue that it could generate. And it's mentioned here that it could raise as much as 30 billion pesos, which is a large sum of money. And this was proposed by the chairperson of House Ways and Means Committee, Albay Representative Jose Salcedo, sorry. That they are calling, he's calling this the Digital Economy Taxation Act. So he's comparing that why is it that network in our country are being taxed while other companies like Google, Facebook, Netflix, and as mentioned Spotify are not being taxed for providing their online services. But the next question is, do they have a footprint here in our country in terms of establishing a business here? Those said companies, network companies like ABS and even GMA, they are set up, they are a corporation set up here in our country. That's why they're being taxed. For those companies who are offering the service online, don't have a footprint here. So how can you charge them? And how are you going to provide, say, a way to charge it every time a person subscribes, let's say, to Netflix, to a particular series? How are you going to monitor that? So I think we have to be realistic here. And what they're asking also is, they're asking those companies, they would require them that they have a representative here so that they can monitor that. Doesn't make sense, right? So, like companies like Grab that are established here in the country, Grab, Angkas, Lazada, and Shopee. So they are companies that are established here. You can tax them already. So meaning, after taxing them for operating here in our country, you're going to tax also the service that they provide. So it is similar to like our telecom companies that are providing services, right? The fact you're availing of the service is being taxed already. So every time you make a call, you're going to tax them. Every time they use data, you're going to tax them as well. I don't know if that's feasible in any shape, form, or manner. And what's enticing, as I mentioned earlier, they're already projecting the possible revenue that it could generate all the way up to 2023. That's why the $30 billion peso revenue is so enticing to them that they are going to, they're seriously considering, according to the Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III. Now, the idea is sound in taxing, but is it even feasible? What do you think? In my opinion, this is kind of silly in terms of how you're going to implement this. The fact that we're having difficulty collecting tax from existing companies established here in the country already is a daunting task. And trying to tax online companies, that would only spur on increase if that were to happen. Or let's say you tax Netflix, they will only add the price to the end consumers. And other countries like in the United States, they're not taxing the online such services like Netflix. If you're going to do that, you might as well tax. But actually, they're taxing Amazon in terms of freight, right, for delivering their products. But for Spotify, that would be unrealistic. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, that concludes our topic for today. So let's take a look here. Are there any questions from our viewers? Hello, everyone. So if you have any question regarding today's topics, so feel free to leave your comments down below and I'll get back to you. So as always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell icon so that you'll be updated with the latest videos as well as news. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next week. Sorry. Where's cut off? There you go. I got cut off again. Let me repeat again. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you again next week. Same time, same channel. Cue in the outro. Take care. Where is it? I lost it. There you go. End stream. Yes.